Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 Remaster came out about a month ago now, and myself and many others have been looking forward to this remake for quite some time. But there's one achievement in particular that has been haunting skate gamers ever since. On Game Pass, only 0.01% of players have this, and it's not an easy one to grind out. But what do you even get for this? Is it worth all that effort? Tony Hawk games have been a staple of my gaming diet since I was an angsty teenager with my first copy of Tony Hawk's Underground. The combination of real-life tricks and the fun arcadey addiction of going for the highest combo you can, or trying to complete all the objectives as quickly as you can, is a timeless feeling that never gets old. In this video, I will be getting all the achievements and giving my thoughts on the game throughout. That means we will be beating the career mode for both games 100%, 32 times including the initial playthrough, finding all the stat points, hidden decks, cash money, finishing all the challenges, speedrunning the levels, and more. The first thing I want to talk about is how 4 is not a true remake of the original game. The developer Iron Galaxy have turned all the levels into 2-minute timers with goals, like the first 3 games, and this has been a very hot topic in the community since we learned this. Now, I actually never played the original 4, so it didn't bother me nearly as much as other people, but there are points where you can tell these levels were designed for more of a free roam approach. These levels do still feel fun, and you can tell they thought about which goals to include and change up a bit to not get in the way of the level structure too much. I didn't really notice it until Alcatraz, where it became rather obvious. This level was not designed with a 2-minute timer in mind. They did Zoo and Kona extra dirty by turning them into competition maps, which I'm not a huge fan of to begin with. But with that little bit out of the way, let's dive into the run itself. Now, the first thing we need to do is create a skater and beat Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 career mode. Seems simple enough. The Create a Skater features are pretty bare bones, but I do like how many logos there are to choose from on certain tops. We can customize our outfit, hair, clothing, and more. Choosing which style your skater is, street, park, vert, etc., changes your starting stats, as well as the location of skate letters and money in the solo tours. There's also one challenge on each level that will change depending on what style your skater is, such as Indy over the half pipe versus kickflip between the generator transfer. As you complete challenges, you unlock more things to buy in the shop, and there's even a secret shop with fun things like extra skaters and game mods. Now that I have my own character, it's time to get started on career mode. If you don't know, the levels in these games boil down to a series of objectives that you have 2 minutes to complete. You can take as many runs as you want, but it's always fun to see how many goals you can get done in a single run. We'll want to do this anyway as practice for the speedrun challenges we do later in the video. On each level, there's a high, pro, and 6 score, skate letters, and varying collectibles and other goals that change per map. The score goals are the most straightforward, and getting score is integral to many goals in the game and competition parks. So, how do we get points? Well, we need to do tricks, and the easiest way to rack up big points is to combo these tricks together. Grabs, flip tricks, grinds, lip tricks, manuals, and reverts are the main tools in our arsenal. We also have special moves, which we can activate when our special meter is full, with fighting game style inputs like forward, down, B for example. The majority of these, outside of most of the special moves, are based on real-life skate tricks, which is a really cool touch, and something you'll definitely notice if you've ever dipped your toe in real skating. Manuals and grinds have a little balance minigame that gets harder the more you use them, and there are rules about this the game doesn't tell you. To start with, grinding the same rail multiple times in a row will cause your balance to degrade quicker, so will manualing more than twice in a row without some sort of grind or wall ride or something of the sort in between them. Keep these in mind and spam special tricks when you have the air, and you'll be racking up million-point combos in no time. The first level, Foundry, is a nice little introduction to the game, and in my eyes is up there with Warehouse and Hangar. I like how all the goals are strung through the map, so you can work on them naturally as you explore and get a feel for the mechanics of the game. At the first of each run, you'll get a flyover of all the goals. This is especially nice for some of the more vague goals like Soak the Foreman. We need to grind the rail behind him to knock him in. I think the hardest challenge on this level for me was grind the molten bucket, as you have to time your jump off this ramp correctly, and if you miss, it's very possible you won't get back in time to try again. All in all, a great level that was really fun to revisit. Next, we head to Canada. I actually really love this map, mostly because of the aesthetic. It just stands out from everything else due to the color palette and the snowy vibes. People got really mad that there's no more dude pissing over the side of the ramp like the original Pro Skater 3, and while I understand what they're trying to say, I also think the level is perfectly fine and still way fun without the crude 13-year-old humor. They even make a cheeky little reference by calling him Peter, so it's not all lost to the annals of time. The hardest goal on this map is probably to get the secret tape, but I found that holding right as I hopped onto the mine tracks made it more consistent to get on the correct side. You also need to lift this ramp up, which the game doesn't tell you how to do, but it is pretty easy to figure out. This is probably one of my favorite maps in the franchise, even though I know that's not the most popular opinion. With Canada done, we can head to our first competition part. These work differently than other maps in the game. In competitions, you are put up against other pro skaters and need to do tricks within the 1-minute time limit and rack up as many points as you can without bailing. If you bail even once, it doesn't matter how many points you get, you won't hit that 99 score. As you get further in the career, you need more points to get higher score, but once you figure out the score caps, you can finish these in a matter of seconds. I like the idea of these competitions, but I do feel like these maps go by a bit too quickly compared to the others in the game. With our first first competition crushed, we head to the streets of suburbia. This is the first map that I'm not a huge fan of. Getting the money on this plane is super annoying to figure out, and the easiest way to get the timing is to just reset the level a million times. It's also just kind of boring, and there's a pro challenge on this map that I absolutely despise, but we'll get to those later. Restoring power to the dish is kind of hard to figure out how to do easily, but you can actually just grind off the roof of this house for easy access to the wires. You also need to get cash on this wire out of the bowl for certain skaters, which can be tricky to figure out. Airport is next on the list, and this is another that could very well contend for my favorite level in the series. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 really was a gem, and some levels still being fun to play today is an amazing achievement. There are so many things to combo off of, and going up and down this main run and seeing how many points you can get is so fun. This is also a really good level to learn shuffling. Shuffling is basically just hopping back and forth between two sides of a rail really fast to either get lots of multiplier or keep your grind from degrading. Stopping the pickpockets is different now, as they steal people's phones rather than their wallets like they used to. The modern day equivalent, I suppose. I don't feel any real way about this, though I've heard some people get kind of mad about it. I also really enjoy the get the tickets to your buddy challenge, as it's a good way to practice getting from start to finish without bailing. When you grind the flags down for the visit 10 countries challenge, there's fun little sayings that pop up for each flag. This is a really nice touch. After a gnarly skate sesh, we grab a flight to our next competition on Skater Island. They added a little Easter egg to this level that made me laugh, and the transition screen is just perfect. Other than that, this is just another straightforward competition map, although figuring out how to get up high at first for some of the money and skate decks can be a bit tricky. Los Angeles is next on the list, and this is one of the most highly revered maps in the series. Starting the earthquake is a really fun goal to figure out, and I've always loved goals that change the geometry of the map in some way. This also allows you to get the secret tape and stop the car by knocking down this poor lady stuck on the broken freeway. This map just strings together so beautifully, and I used to skate around this map for hours in Thug 2 back in the day. They did change the taxi to an automated taxi, which is kind of a funny touch that I don't mind too much, and it even hangs out in the car wash in Freeskate. Another amazing map down, and we head to a map that I would love if it weren't for the annoying pro goal and the atrocious gaps, but we'll talk about that later. Real quick, if you guys enjoy this kind of content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more completion videos in the future. I've also started doing challenge runs on the channel. Anyways, back to the run. Tokyo has some fun obstacles, and it's pretty easy to rack up a big score here and get a quick competition win. There's a deck here that's kind of hard to figure out how to get to, but you can grind this rail by the train to get behind a sign for a secret half pipe. Tokyo is technically the last level, but each game also has a secret level that unlocks after completing the rest of the career mode. Cruise ship is the secret level for Pro Skater 3, and it is amazing, although I really hate the stunt gauntlet they added. It just takes so long to go to each of these goals, and then you have to air into the metal a very specific way to get the cutscene to trigger. There's also some pro challenges that are super annoying, but we don't unlock those until after completing both games. I heard someone say they changed the captain's dialogue to be more woke. Must be the Titanic joke. Finishing Pro Skater 3 took me about 3.5 hours, and after all that I had only unlocked 4 achievements and achieved 70% completion in that game. The 4 achievements we have so far are for doing a 7,500 point combo, landing a 150,000 point combo including a flip, grab, manual, wall ride, grind, and special trick, scaring 120 clusters of birds, and successfully landing 500 grinds. There's 32 achievements in this game, so we still have a lot of work to do. Heading into the next game, we start off with College, a really vibrant level with lots of fun goals that I really enjoyed, honestly. I've seen gameplay of the original 4, and for some reason they got rid of the overhead camera angle while sketching the professor's car. My guess is it would just have cost more money for what they saw as no reason. Kind of a shame though. We also get our first goal involving Officer Dick, and it was fun to see Jack Black come back again. I actually used to listen to Tenacious D while skating around in Underground as a teenager, so to me especially, he just feels like he fits within the series. This is also one of the first times we need to use a door to get to a hidden area for the secret tape. I really like these, and they are more integral to the level design in 4 than they were in 3. The water park level uses these especially well, as you'll see. We graduate college and head out to San Francisco. This map is really boring to look at, but quite fun to skate, honestly. I like manualing the walkway, but finding out how to save Painter Neil took me longer to figure out than I'd like to admit. You need to grind this rail around the ball and then do a wall plant to knock it loose. Even after you figure this out, angling your skater right against the ball takes a bit of trial and error to really figure out. There's a really cool rooftop area in this level that I wish was used for more goals or something. It even has another TC's roof gap, which was a fun thing to notice. Now we head to our first competition and first new map designed by Iron Galaxy, the movie studio. This map is pretty cool, and there's some fun little items hidden around in the nooks and crannies you can go into photo mode and check out, which I really like. For instance, we can see the metal from the cruise ship down here under the bowl. Getting points on this map is rather easy, but there are a few spine transfers where you just seem to randomly bail with too much height or speed or something. It just feels kind of weird. There's also a loop rail on this map, which I used to love using special grinds on to rack up hella points. This strategy still kind of works, but once you know more about the game and get your chops up, it becomes better to get score in other ways and save your balance meter for keeping the combo going. We become the star of the show and head to Alcatraz? Now, fun little fact, I grew up with the Game Boy Advance version of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4, and Alcatraz was, I believe, the second level in that game. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. As I mentioned before, this is where it became obvious to me that these levels weren't designed for the 2-minute timer. I do like that photobombing the tourists, releasing the prisoner, and nose-grinding the foghorn rail are all kind of on the same line, however, making it more feasible to get a bunch done on your way up. This level is amazing for getting points on, as you can just hop back and forth between grinds on the switchback to build up speed and multiplier either before or after doing a bunch of specials on vert. Spine transferring the water tower is hilariously buggy, but once you figure out how to get it to work, it's not too bad. While here we grab the achievement In It for the Long Haul by skitching Ranger Bob, and we managed to grab the wall-to-wall achievement by this point as well. Next we head out to cool off at the water park, another new level by Iron Galaxy, and I still have very mixed feelings about this one. It's really easy to fall into the lazy river and lose your momentum or crash, and it's kind of annoying to get back out of it. The main gimmick of this level are all these doors you can enter that take you to the tops of different slides. This is a really cool idea in theory, but it kind of makes it annoying to combo around the level. Draining Pirates Bay can be really annoying to figure out as well, and I had so many times that I felt like I should have grinded these pipes, but I just bounced off of them instead for some reason. There's also this weird screen shake that happens while grinding the pipes sometimes, so you think you broke the valve, but you actually didn't, and this kind of gets annoying as well. I do like the color palette of this level, but like I said, it's very much a mixed bag. Now for our second competition in Pro Skater 4, Kona. This map is super cool and modeled off a real skate park. I remember in the Thug games there were skate parks where you just felt way too big to actually use the obstacles properly. But this feels scaled nicely in this game, and it's really fun to combo through the level, and there's lots of grinds to build up speed. I've heard the horror stories of the misty flip over the hut, but luckily we don't need to do that. I would have loved to experience all the goals on this map from the OG career mode though. It's the map that always comes to mind when I think of this game. We outskate the competition and head on to Shipyard. This map is great for scoring, and I get a lot of challenges done on this map just comboing the train tracks into the ramps on either side. You can keep this going for a long time, and it's not too difficult, so I recommend practicing this for anyone struggling to get scores. Delivering lunch to the welders is weird at first, but once you realize you can do it all in one combo, the placement makes more sense. The hidden deck on this map was really hard for me to get to, and I had to come back a bit later during solo tours to get it. Getting into this vent for the secret tape also took me a bit to figure out, and I actually was going in backwards for the first few times I did this level before I figured out you can just drop into here from the roof. Shipyard is a pretty bland level, but there's a lot to combo off of, so pretty solid overall. Only 3 levels left, and now we head to the streets of London. There's another Jack Black quest here, and there's not 1, but 2 goals with cutscenes, which I really hate in this game. See, you can skip the cutscenes, but the only button to do so, that I found at least, was the Ollie button. But your Ollie will still register, meaning if you mash X or A to skip a cutscene, you can very easily mess up your line. It's also really specific where you have to trick over Officer Dick to get the goal to trigger, and this goal was probably one of the worst ones in the game in my opinion. The other goal with a cutscene is freeing Stompy, which admittedly isn't as annoying, but the game doesn't tell you need to sketch both sides of the van. It also doesn't tell you how to switch sides, so it took me a second to remember how to do this. I honestly really don't like the goals on this level, and overall it's one of the weaker levels in the game in my opinion. There's only 1 competition map left, and it may be the saddest map of the game. I've watched videos of people playing this level, and the old goals seem like they have so much charm, and there's even an aquarium secret area that they just completely removed from what I can tell. All the animals are gone, and while I get that it's supposed to be like a zoos are dead kind of thing, it still just makes the whole place feel sad and bland. There's lots of bowls and obstacles to grind on between the different exhibits, meaning comboing around the level is quite fun, but the vibes are just off here. It really encapsulates how they didn't quite capture the feeling of the 4th game, and I can tell that without even having played it myself. I wouldn't go so far as to say soulless, but definitely lacking in the vibes department. Now with that sad mess out of the way, we can head to the secret level of Pro Skater 4. This is another new level, and they actually axed a few levels from the OG 4 to make room for water park, movie studio, and the secret level pinball. I'm not sure how I feel about this, seeing as I never got to experience those myself, but I remember hearing that someone said those levels weren't popular enough or something among the fan base. I can't say for sure, but I don't know, that feels like BS to me. Anyway, pinball is a fun level, though it heavily relies on gimmicks like these boost pads and multiple teleport locations. The boost pads are fun and fit well into the formula of the game, but it just makes it feel like they wanted you to go through this level in a very specific way. Almost like a Sonic level, I don't know. A few of the arcade tokens can be tricky to get, and if you don't know how to start multi-ball, it's confusing. But the only goal that really gave me trouble here was the secret tape. Even when you get it, it looks like you just barely go under it, so the hitbox is just really wonky on that one for some reason. With all the Pro Skater 4 levels done, we unlock pro challenges and solo tours. This is where the meat of completion comes in, but don't worry, I'm not going to talk through all 30 Pro Skater tours. The fact they want you to do this is absolutely ridiculous, but I remember the last achievement in Pro Skater 1+2 being atrocious as well. You needed to reach level 100, which doesn't sound bad, but I played that game for weeks straight and I couldn't quite get there. Let me know which achievement you think is worse in the comments below. They both become mind-meltingly grindy for sure. The pro challenges are 5 additional challenges for each level that are usually quite a bit more difficult than the normal challenges. There's a new high score called Platinum Score, combo letters which are like skate letters, but you need to get them all in one combo and land it, and then more goals that vary per level. One of the more fun achievements we can get now is called Obmock, where we need to get the combo letters backwards. I found college to be the easiest level for this, but there's a couple different ones that would work, I'm sure. There are a few of these challenges where you need specific special moves, so when we do solo tours, I kind of get into a rhythm of mapping Cannonball, Pizza Man, 900, and Froggy Grind to every skater right off the bat. The Foundry Pro challenges are all pretty simple, but the first one that really got me was stiffying over the hill in Canada. See, you can actually ollie after you air out of a vert to get slightly more length, and you can even do something called a boneless by pressing up before an ollie for extra height. You need to use a combination of these weird mechanics the game doesn't teach you about very well, and a nice heaping of luck to get this one done. The first time doing this goal took me forever, but eventually I was able to do it first try on a lot of the solo tours. Each of the competition parks has a new pro goal as well, although most of these are quite easy with the exception of the Tokyo one. That level is just a nightmare. Suburbia is home to quite possibly my least favorite goal in the game, however, which I alluded to earlier. Pizza Man in the Abyss. We can also get an achievement for doing a kickflip in the Abyss, but getting in this door is so annoying, it's ridiculous. There's times where the door looks like it's open, so you try to go in, but nope, guess it wasn't quite open enough. Then it just closes and you have to sit there and wait again, and then the timer runs out. This was probably the goal I dreaded most on each solo tour. The airport pro goals are all really good, and my favorite has to be the combo from start to finish. Doing this while having the tickets for your buddy is just a great feeling of progression. Los Angeles probably has the most annoying combo line in the entire game. Getting up to the building isn't too bad, but you have to angle yourself so specifically for the first letter, and jumping off the wire to land on the last O just feels like a total crapshoot when you're trying it the first few times. This is another one that, if you can get up there, is arguably easier backwards, but it's hard to say for sure. Cruise Ship also has a pretty awful goal where you need to collect these Red Bull cans. Now, most of these aren't too bad, and you can even route them into the stunt gauntlet if you're good enough, but there's one in particular near the manual challenge that is just so annoying to get to. My preferred method, and probably the fastest, is wall riding and bonking off this wall, but that's obviously not the intended way. They want you to go out of your way to grind this rail on top of the awning, and then pop onto the rail that the Red Bull is sitting on. Once I figured this out, it made sense, but you have to go so far out of your way to do that, it's just not worth it. The first pro challenge in Pro Skater 4 that gave me trouble was get rid of the rude dudes. It's just so vague, I had no idea I was supposed to take this bird seed after scaring these birds off and then grind over them, but the goal isn't hard to redo once you figure it out. Water Park also has a pretty awful one with the arcade tokens, particularly this one on the hut. The best way I could find to consistently get up there was to jump from this slide just before the bend here. If your timing is off by just a little bit, you'll miss it or overshoot it, which can be quite annoying. Again, after doing it like 30 times, you kind of get a feel for it. The only other pro challenges I had trouble with were triple kickflip the flippers, combo on pinball, and grind the wire rails from top to bottom. For some reason, trying to go from one grind to a grind on one of these wire rails just seems so inconsistent, and the depth perception is kind of hard to figure out. Also, if you're on one of the side rails while going from top to bottom with the wrong grind, you'll just get bopped right out of it. A trick that really helped me with the flipper gap, however, is that when the game asks for certain tricks over gaps like this, it just wants that trick in the combo with the gap somewhere. This means you can do the flipper gap, get some speed, and go off a ramp for an easy triple kickflip. There is a really annoying bug left in from 1+2 where you seemingly get random double triple kickflips when doing tricks like this, and that's probably the most annoying part of this challenge. Do this along with the normal career challenges for every single skater on the roster, find their decks, and you've completed the solo tours. Now this took a ridiculous amount of time, which is why this video took so long to come out, and I actually had to take a break after for a few days and play different games because it burnt me out so much. This particular achievement is where I can confidently say you should not 100% this game. After you do this, all you get are these weird wings for flexing online, and these aren't even an accessory, meaning I can't put them on my fly-ass Taco Bell hoodie my friend gave me a code for. They're tied to specific shirts, tanks, and hoodies. You can put a logo on them, and I'm glad we got some sort of reward, but it felt very underwhelming after grinding my life away for 2 weeks straight. I'm not going to go over every single achievement we have so far, as that would be kind of boring, but there are a few notable ones. We need to 900 the 900, which I found easiest to do in a creative part. People have made a bunch of these, and it's pretty easy to make a massive ramp yourself, too. We also need to do the tutorial, since I never did that somehow, and basically just complete all the challenges. The challenges are broken up into 6 sections: Pro Skater 3, Pro Skater 4, Skater, Trick, Expert 1, 1 and Expert 2. These all have achievements associated with them and are the main way to unlock new cosmetics for our skaters. Speedruns are the first thing on our list, and this was probably the most fun thing for me personally. See, instead of grabbing all the goals while the timer ticks down, you do the goals while a timer ticks up. This kind of changes the way you approach the levels. I decided to save these until after beating the game 31 times, so I would hopefully have a better memory built up for where all the goals were, and sure enough, I was able to knock out the expert times fairly easily. There's an online leaderboard for these speedruns, which is cool, but I hate how every leaderboard nowadays is just topped with cheaters. I'm looking at you, Obesity Lag DC, show me some video evidence. But like, for real, who thinks anyone is going to believe you beat the level in 0.01 seconds? Give me a break. Also, how is that fun in any way, shape, or form? Isn't the whole point to like get better at the game? Anyway, I'm pretty happy with how I do. I managed to beat all the speedrun challenges in a little over an hour. With those out of the way, we need to do the next most grindy thing on our list, all the gaps. In these games, you'll notice this little blue text sometimes when tricking from one obstacle to another. This is called a gap, and each level has a bunch of these that we need to do at least once in order to complete all the challenges. There are also things called get theirs, where we need to string certain gaps together in a combo. I remember some of these being insane in 1+2, particularly the bull ring, but luckily none of them are quite that level of insane here. These are mostly just puzzles, and big shout out to Maka91 Productions, who had guides up for gaps and get theirs really quickly after the game released. The YouTube game is just crazy these days. For some reason, the get theirs and the secret levels are in the expert section, although I would argue they aren't particularly more difficult than the normal get theirs. We need to manual the slide, which is really cool, and the pinball one was really hard for me to get to register for some reason. The water park get there had to be the hardest one for me, and when you miss, you land in this really annoying spot where you bounce back and forth and have to ollie out. I decided to do these before doing all the gaps just to get them out of the way. We also need to get a certain amount of points on specific gaps for each level, but these combos need to be high enough that I figured it would be more efficient to go for session high scores at the same time. Most of the gaps aren't too bad, but there are some that stood out as particularly difficult for me. In Canada, we have all the glitters, flying fenceman, and rock slide. Rock slide was the worst out of these, as I felt like I would literally be on the rail and press the grind button and I would still just randomly not grind. This one took longer than I would like to admit. On Suburbia, of course, the airplane gap was tricky for me. You have to land on a very specific part of the airplane to get it to trigger, and there was more than one time I felt I should have gotten it to register and it just didn't work for whatever reason. In airport, to get the first class lip, we need to sketch. This will give us enough speed and height to just barely make it up there. Tokyo is hands down the hardest map for gaps. Not only are there over 90, some of them are ridiculously difficult to get to. I imagine at least one person gave up at this point. The Fugu gaps are probably the worst, but one tip of advice is if you just hold up when airing out of a vert, you go way higher than doing just a late boneless or late ollie. I'm not sure why it works this way, but it worked for me. There's also a gap called Men Agiri, where you have to do the world's smallest wall ride. This took me a long ass time, but with that out of the way, we get the achievement for unlocking all the Pro Skater 3 challenges. Now, as you complete a challenge page, you unlock these little parts of a mural, and when they're all unlocked, it fills in with color. This is really satisfying to watch. For cruise ship, the gaps weren't too bad, but 10-point landing is kind of hard to get enough distance for. A link in the chain isn't hard to do per se, it's just hard to land. I just aired out onto this quarter pack to play it safe. The netting sidetrack quickie is also a little weird at first, but the trick here is to just not press any directions on your way out of the grind, and you'll fall right onto the other rail. Into the Bowl from San Francisco is kind of tricky to get enough air for as well, but a late bonus makes it pretty doable. We also need to get a big combo with this gap later, which is quite tricky. Alcatraz has a few notorious ones, the first being manual the switchbacks, which I believe was a goal in the original game. Now, this game has mods you can buy in the shop, and you can actually use perfect manual balance and still complete the gaps, but I felt it was necessary to do this one legit. The other one from this level that's really hard is switchback to sewer pipe. The way I got this one to work was by slowing the game to half speed and spine transferring off the roof to get enough speed to make the jump. You could probably do this with normal speed, but getting the angle right would be pretty hard. I don't feel bad for cheating on this one, honestly. Water Park has an even harder manual gap, and this one I also just cheated for since I was getting impatient. You need to manual the entire boomerang slide, and the triggers are really finicky, particularly for the first stretch. We also have to do this gap called Outrageous, which just speaks for itself. The trick I found here was to line up with this little white smudge on the slide here. Don't ask where that came from. And that was pretty consistent to get me to the right spot for the acid drop. I only struggled with the ledge to lip gap in Kona, which admittedly might have been a skill issue, and I had to resort to half speed again to practice the warehouse ledge madness gap on Shipyard. Getting enough distance for the last jump is just really tricky on this one for some reason. I've seen some horror stories online about over Elephant Rock over the years, so I was a bit worried about it, but if you use this little pocket and try to aim mostly straight up, it will give you the horizontal distance you need to make it. And with Zoo down, we finished Pro Skater 4. Again, pinball is considered expert for some reason, but the only one I really had trouble getting to trigger was mass hysteria. This was mostly just due to having max stats and overshooting the target. With all the gaps done, finally, we can cross the last thing off our checklist: session high scores and gap combos. Now, I'm no Andy THPS or Andy THPS, or however you say it, sorry, so some of these took me a few tries to get. I can comfortably rack up a couple million points, but getting above 10 mil is about where my limit is at the moment. These are pretty straightforward, just do a big combo involving the gap, and then finish the run with enough points to get that challenge done as well. I utilized some flat ground to squeeze out the extra points when I need, and I managed to get the 10 million point challenge and achievement done on the pinball map. This is a super easy map to just keep going up and down, racking up big points on the ramp. Just be careful you don't shoot yourself too far over and bail. It's really easy to do. Now we only have one achievement left, which is the last 2 expert challenges. These involve skitching twice and getting a big combo, so I decide to head to San Francisco. The cars here go in a pretty straight line and are very predictable, and there are even ramps on either side of the road for an easy way to turn around and combo into the second sketch. After a few tries, we get the challenges and the achievement. The feeling of relief here was just amazing, and I want to go try out the multiplayer soon, though I imagine it's significantly less populated than it was even a few weeks ago. This was one of the most grindy games I've ever completed, and unless you really love this series, I would highly recommend just beating the game with your creative skater. Maybe if you have a favorite pro, check them out, and then just do whatever you want. Play multiplayer, free skate, get high scores. The game is incredibly fun and is one of the best feeling Tony Hawk games out there, so I do highly recommend picking this up if you like Tony Hawk or even just skateboarding games in general. That was quite a long journey, so if you're still here, I want to genuinely thank you. These videos take a lot of time and effort to make, and I really love sharing my passion for games with the world. Leave a like and consider subscribing if you love video games too and want to see more content like this in the future. Don't forget to take care of yourself. Thanks for watching. Love you guys.